Download our app today and enjoy tackle-busting benefits with great odds, more markets and same-game multi every NRL match at Palmerbet. Gamble responsibly. For Gamblers' Help, call 1-800-858-858.
Welcome everyone to episode 437 of Fergo on the Freak. I'm your host, the Glorious League Freak, and tonight we have a very special guest. You've heard her before on the podcast. It is mad Parramatta Eels fan, Julie. How are you, Julie?
I'm good. How are you, Freaky?
I'm pretty good. Now, we just watched the Parramatta Eels defeat the Melbourne Storm at home, 22 points to 14. What are your immediate thoughts after that game now that you've secured a place in the top four?
The curse of Julie has not been broken.
You tipped the Storm.
Yep.
Okay. You told me that during the week. I tipped the Parramatta Eels based on the curse of Julie. I thought the Storm would win. I said it in the podcast. And look at me. I just clawed one win back from you.
I know. I'm still 2 points ahead of you, so that's okay.
Yeah, but the week has just begun. There's a lot of games left, especially the women's games. I'm hoping the women's games come through. It was an interesting game because the Parramatta Eels really dominated field position and possession early on, and it looked like they weren't going to do enough with it. But it's weird because you kind of expected the Storm to come back, and they just kind of didn't come back until right at the end of the game.
Yeah, going into this game, I wasn't too sure which Parramatta was going to show up. So, the Parramatta that will absolutely, be convincing and win, or the Parramatta that just goes, going home.
Yeah. Did it surprise you that this Parramatta team turned up tonight?
Yes, but at the same time, not taking anything away from Parramatta, I wanted Storm to give them a little bit more of a challenge. Like, everything just went Parramatta's way. So their confidence was high the entire time. Storm didn't really, at halftime make that comeback and really put that pressure on Parramatta for them to go, oh, things aren't working out for us. How are we going to react to that? That's what I wanted to see from them tonight, to really gauge how they are going to play in the finals, because I'm still not convinced as a Parramatta fan that, we can make the grand final and win.
Now, I think it's fair for Parramatta fans to feel that way. I really do.
Yeah, until they win, the whistle's blowing, I'm always like, yeah, they're going to lose this somehow. They're going to do a Parramatta.
Yeah, and look, the Storm come home with a wet sail, but the game was well and truly over. It wasn't really a threat to them, the Storm coming back in this game. And yeah, I'm kind of like you. I wonder how Parramatta will do when the game turns against them and they've got to hold in there for a while, because we've seen some of the other teams do that during the year and we know how they handle it. But it seems like Parramatta, they either everything's rolling for them or it's not, and there's no in-between result for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, as it was pointed out to me, they are a confidence team.
Mm-hmm. So
if they're playing good, they're feeling good, they're fantastic. When things aren't going right, they're feeling bad, it's like, yeah, we're crap.
Now, their form since basically Origin's been pretty damn good. They've beaten a lot of the contenders in the competition. They've beaten the Penrith Panthers and the Melbourne Storm twice this year. They're the only team to do that. And they're coming in with good form. And next week they will face the Penrith Panthers at Penrith. And the Panthers will have rested their entire first grade squad. And Nathan Cleary's not played first grade, what would it be, 5 weeks, I think it is, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. It's one of those situations that normally I think with most teams I would be like, they're in a pretty good place. But this Eels team, you just don't know, Dan. They might turn up next week and just put up a duck egg. You just don't know.
Yeah, that's the problem with being a Parramatta fan. You don't know what you're going to get the next week. Next week, we could be playing and we could smash the Panthers, 40-0.
Mm-hmm.
Or Panthers could smash us 40-0.
Mm.
You don't know what you're going to get. even during the game. And yeah, like I said, until that whistle's blown, I'm just like, how's Parramatta going to lose this?
Yeah, it's a weird one. Their forwards are fantastic. They're a really well-balanced forward pack. I think it comes down to just how their halves execute. And I think that Dylan Brown, the way he's playing, has been the difference for them.
Yeah, he was awesome tonight.
Yeah, he really was. And he's been awesome for a few months now. It's been great to see.
Yeah.
I think that earlier in the year, you would have probably for the New Zealand team thought Kieran Foran would have got the nod at 5'8" for New Zealand at the World Cup just based on having so much experience. But they can't leave Dylan Brown out of that 5'8" position now. It'd just be silly. That makes me wonder if he is the key man to shut down in this Eels side rather than someone like a Mitchell Moses, who played pretty well tonight. I know the Storm
He got smashed.
He did. But he smashed a few dudes as well. It's going to be interesting to see if his hand injury. It looks like he re-injured his fingers. He had broken fingers.
I was like, do not get injured. Do not get injured.
Yeah. And he was in a lot of pain, especially in that first half.
Yeah.
So I think he would play with broken fingers in this finals game. But then again, they'd have the second chance if they lose. Like, it's a tough one. It's a really tough one. I don't know. I think the good thing for the Eels is the thing that worried me the most for the Eels is that they were going to lose this game and then they would lose next week, and that was just all of a sudden all over. I think that would have been devastating for the club.
Yeah, I could see that happening though.
Whereas
I sound like a really bad fan. Yeah, I can see my team losing.
Listen, when you don't win a grand final since 1986, you got to be a little bit pessimistic, you know? Like, you got to be a bit worried about things.
Yeah. It's like, until they win that premiership, I'm just not going to believe it.
Yeah, look, that's how I feel about them too. Like, we've seen over the many, many years, Parramatta do some really extraordinary things in the regular season. And until they win something, it's like, I need to be convinced, you know. There's been so many Eels teams where you've sort of looked at them and said, oh, this team, they're the form team and all that. And then they don't win it. And it's like, it's time to win it, you know?
Yeah, like I'm worried that if we don't do it this year, like with all the signings and everything that's going on for next year, it's like, when's our next opportunity going to come?
Yeah, because, I mean,
we're losing a lot of people.
Yeah, that's the thing. But you do get Trent Barrett full-time next year, so that's got to fill you with confidence. What's it like to know that if Brad Arthur gets the sack, Trent Barrett's your coach?
At least we'll have a good-looking coach.
Oh, Jesus.
You've got to look at the positive side.
Yeah, I guess you do. And those eyes pop with the way he puts his eyeliner on, it must be said. Now, next week, we talked about it briefly, but you go west. You take on the defending, reigning NRL and world champion Penrith Panthers. The Panthers will be rested. I don't know how I feel about that. I've always felt like there's a bit of a karma thing when you just decide to give up a game. Yeah. So I don't know how I feel about that. And Cleary, having not played first grade because of his suspension, it worries me a little bit, but not too much, because he will have been doing all of the training he can with the team.
Yeah, and it's not like if he's got putting it really badly, it's not like if he's got a physical role, like, you know, a forward.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like, you know, him having to come back and, you know, do hit up after hit up after hit up. So he's a little bit protected in that way, coming back from, you know, such a long break.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is too, like, if you could have picked one player that it would have been nice for the Panthers to give a month off to, it probably would have been him. You know?
Yeah, and after Origin, probably good for him.
Yeah, 100%. So, looking at next week, what are you thinking about next week? Like, I know what I'm thinking, but I want to hear what you're thinking.
I'm thinking I might continue the curse of Julie, and I will tip Penrith to ensure a Parramatta win.
Okay. Do you think that the Eels would win, though?
Now there's a very long pause.
I know.
Yes.
You do. You think that they'll beat Penrith at home?
Yes.
Wow, that's arrogant. That's really arrogant. Wow.
Yeah. Well, they're capable of doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, Eels are a team that can beat Penrith more so than other teams. So yeah, they're more than capable of doing it and doing it convincingly if they show up with the right attitude for the entire game. So the Parramatta that showed up tonight needs to show up again next week.
Yeah, and the weird thing is it's a fine line for Parramatta, I feel like, between confidence and there's sometimes where they sort of come in and they feel like, oh, we're Parramatta, we're fucking great. And that's normally when they get smacked. Like, I think they did that against South Sydney.
Yeah, they can't be overconfident next week going, we just beat the Storm.
Yeah. Like, if I see them on the news this week and they're all talking about, like, oh, we feel really confident and stuff, I'll be like, oh, man, that's not a good sign for them.
Yeah, what wasn't a good sign was Joey saying that if they beat Storm tonight, they can win the grand final. Or make the grand final. I can't remember what it was, but I'm like, Joey, don't jinx them. Shh, be quiet.
Yeah, it was very much part of the Andrew Johns rule that we have here, and the Andrew Johns rule.
Yeah.
I think he should just stick to his medicinal business that he's into now. But I think as a Panthers fan looking towards next week, and it's weird to not even be considering this week's game against the Cowboys, but it's a weird situation for the Panthers to be in because it doesn't really matter and they're resting so many players. So they're not going to lose anyone, touch wood, this week to an injury that occurs in the game. So looking towards next week, it's going to be a sellout crowd. The atmosphere is going to be fantastic there at Penrith Footy Stadium. I've got to say, I said in a few weeks ago, talking to Nadine, I don't care if it's the Storm or the Eels that are in the top four. I'll take on either of them in the first week. I'd rather take them on in the first week and just get them over and done with, because I think that from that point on, if you win that game, they're gone. You don't have to worry about them, and I'm pretty confident against every other side. If you lose that game, then you've got a second chance.
That's what I'm thinking as well. It's like, while Parramatta could lose, it's not as bad because they do have that second chance rather than it's like, well, that's finals over. Yeah.
Now, of the teams that are in the bottom four, and let's just say that the Raiders are the 8th team, because the chances are they're probably going to lap the West Tigers. Who in that bottom four would you be more worried about as a Parramatta Eels fan?
Oh, goodness. Gonna have to have a look, see who's actually there.
So it'd be Storm, the Rabbitohs, the Roosters, or the Raiders?
I'd still go between Storm and the Raiders.
The Raiders?
Yeah.
Wow. I think as a Panthers fan, if we lost that first finals game, I wouldn't like to come up against the Storm, because it would be like, oh man, all of the teams you could face, in the second week.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think it's probably the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, but I don't see the Rabbitohs the same anymore now that they don't have Reynolds.
Yeah, it's a bit different for them.
If Reynolds was in there, I'd be like, yeah, Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Rabbitohs, I don't want to face them. But without them, I feel like they're just lacking that kicking game.
Yeah. Yeah, and just that, sometimes you just need that cool head that's been around for forever just to, boot the ball over the sideline.
Trell can win them the game, but he is fiery and very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
and that can win or lose a game in a final.
Same with Cody Walker. He's the same way.
Yes.
It's really shaping up as cool. I hope that the top 8, I think, as I said, I think the Raiders will come into 8th, but I kind of hope the top 8 sits how it is right now, because the idea that we have like Rabbitohs Roosters again in first week of the finals, we have Raiders versus Storm, and those two teams play pretty well against each other.
Yeah.
Penrith versus Parramatta's locked in, and then like Sharks versus North Queensland is a kind of a weird matchup. I'd like it to be up in North Queensland, but it looks like it'll probably be at Shark Park, depending on how results go. But it's just the matchups that, if these are the matchups for round 1 of the finals, man, it's going to be an amazing final series.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting final series, like more so than the last couple of years, I reckon. Not that I've seen that much over the past year and that, but yeah, this one just seems really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think this time, it would have been about this time last year, you're making a human being.
Yeah, I just had what would be, how old is he now? He's like 1 year and...
Oh, is he already a year?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you already had a human being.
Yep.
Wow. Geez, time flies. Yeah, last year's final series kind of felt like it was Penrith and the Storm, and when the Storm fell away and the Rabbitohs had that run, and yeah, it wasn't like, I think you can on
you
their
could
day.
See a clear winner.
Yeah.
Like, there was always there's the off chance, but you could see that, Penrith were going on that winning streak. You could see, that's what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But this year, it's kind of like Penrith could do it again, but it's not this guarantee of who's going to be there.
Yeah. Like, it's weird because this time last year, I felt as though if Penrith hadn't have got through to the grand final last year, because they're so young, you can kind of always look forward to the future. When they made the grand final, I thought if they lose 2 straight grand finals, that's going to be pretty hard to get over. Yeah. They got that grand final last year, so the monkey's off the back. And their record this year until, basically just after Origin was absolutely ridiculous. Even if you account for how they played after Origin, it's still it's ridiculous. They've won 20 games. Yeah. So but I wonder if we're going to get to the final series and then Penrith turn up and it's like, oh, they're back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I can just kind of see something happening where it won't even be Penrith there.
Yeah.
In the grand final. Just because it's not this convincing, it's not this convincing run of they're the absolute favourites. They have won majority, most of their games, except for 2 or something.
Yeah, I get it. It over the last 2 months, no one's looked at Penrith and gone, "Oh my God," and that worries me.
Yeah. Actually, there's not really any team in that top 8 that you're looking at and going, "Here they come."
Apart from the Eels.
No, but still the Eels.
I think there's no
confidence there.
All I'm saying is that if the Eels lose this premiership, they choked. That's all I'm saying. It's a choke job.
That's what she said.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. So now onto a different subject. You recently put out a tweet to try and get a NRL coaching clinic at your kid's school. Tell me a little bit about that and what that process ended up being like for you.
Oh, well, yeah, it was just me randomly going on a walk and listening to the podcast and going, you know what? I wonder how I get an NRL clinic at my son's school. So I went, you know what? I'm going to tweet this. And I tagged a couple of people that I'm always like, if one of these people is going to, know the answer of like, how you go around it. Because, I'm not in an NRL state.
Yeah.
I'm in South Australia. So it's like, how does this work? And then Guy, who's amazing, he goes, you know what? I've got a contact, and he emailed them, and I've emailed that contact at NRLSA, and now I'm waiting to hear back from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Guy's awesome. Guy was on the podcast a couple of months ago. We talked about rugby league in Adelaide. You gave me his contact details and said you should have him on, and he was a great guest. We'll have him on again soon. So it was cool to see him sort of sort all of that out. Hopefully, NRL South Australia or whatever they call themselves, right? What do they call themselves?
NRLSA.
Okay. Hopefully they get back to you soon because...
Yeah. Like I did say, it is just a general query because I haven't even, contacted the school.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more like I want to get all the information first, and then I can go, you know what, are you interested in having, a clinic at the school? If you are, it's already in process. This is what we need to do to get it to happen.
Yeah, and make it easy for them, Yeah. It was cool to see you be able to reach out. That's the best thing about social media is when you have a question and you don't even know who to really contact. You can just tag a few people in and, it's that 6 degrees of separation sometimes where you get in touch with the right person.
Yeah, and that's why I love NRL Twitter. It's like the NRL Twitter that I encounter, because I'm so boring online, is always so positive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I haven't seen the other side, I've mentioned this to you before. I don't have any feuds. I've never been blocked. I've never blocked anyone. Yeah, I'm boring on a presence on there.
Nah, you're not boring.
Going, listen to a podcast, went for a walk. Awesome.
No, you're a normal person. That's the thing. Like I'm like you. I deal with like a really good side of NRL fans on Twitter, and like they don't all agree with each other, and sometimes they'll take the piss out of each other, but it kind of ends there, and it usually at most it'll be leading up to a game between each other's teams, and then once that's over, it's completely done. But I know there's another side of it, which is just ick. And I'm not part of that. That's like, get me away from that sort of stuff. Jeez.
If I see it happening, I'm just like, go past. I'm not involving myself.
Yeah. I start blocking and muting.
I just want to say, hi, Mofo Storm fan.
Yeah, hi, Mofo Storm fan. You're
awesome.
Yeah, he is. He was sending me some direct messages last night. He sent us an idea for the podcast towards the end of the year.
Yeah, he needs to get on.
Hey?
He needs to come on.
Yeah, he needs to come on. Yeah.
If I can do it, anyone can do it.
Exactly. So now the last time you were on, you'd had I don't even know how much vodka exists, but you'd had about that much.
Yep.
You listened to it back. You listened to it back recently. What did you think of your performance?
Oh, it was a train wreck.
I know a couple of years ago I think it was probably about 3 years ago, there was a really bad Panthers loss. I think it was 2019, and I got drunk during the game, and I come on and I was just not happy about the loss, and just was saying all sorts of shit. I never listened to it back. I didn't want to hear it again.
Oh, see, listening to myself on the podcast, I'm just like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? I'm like, no, I have, because I was drinking, I have to actually see what I sounded like, and it's just like, okay, I did say that. Awesome.
So this time around, you're not drinking. No. When we have avoided doing your top 10 sexiest rugby league players. Our legal department said we shouldn't.
I did do that list for your website.
Well, yeah, you updated it. You updated it.
Yeah.
Let me
I'm
see
sorry to the players because, they always end up on the wrong side of the law if I put them on there.
Yeah, when you put it together.
Yeah.
And then there was the Curse of Julie. I'm just trying to find out. I'm just seeing if I can find it on my website. I don't like clicking off Skype too much in case my computer goes nuts on me. Do you remember who was in your list? Let me find it. It'll be here somewhere. Guest writers. Andrew.
Most likely Moses.
Mitch Moses. Hang on. Here we go. I think I can scroll.
I wonder if I added Harry Grant because he's my newest crush.
Why Harry Grant?
He's just so adorable.
But what about his haircut?
Yeah, I actually don't mind that. Something to hold on to.
Why would you need to hold on to his hair? Is there a reason?
No. No reason.
Oh, shit. Okay, let me see if I can find your list. Julie, the hottest rugby league players in 2022.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, so here's who you had. So it looks like we are getting into this. So you had Ryan Pappenhausen.
Yeah.
Okay. Tariq Sims.
Yep.
Jerome Luai.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loves the Panthers. Joseph Manu. He's, you know what? On all of these lists, he's always on it. It's really weird. Reece Walsh, Toby Rudolph, Mitch Moses, he was on there. Callan Ponga, Adam Reynolds, Chris Patolo. I don't even know who that is. Canterbury Bulldogs. Were you looking through their friggin' New South Wales Cup team or something?
I was looking through their team list and he was on it.
He must have been on it. Brian To'o, Nathan Cleary, and Nico Hines.
Yeah.
So you're still happy with that list?
Got to add Harry Grant.
Harry Grant. And who would you kick off of that list if you had to?
No one.
No one. No one leaves. No one leaves the room.
Nope.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I don't have to.
That's true. That's true.
I write the list. I don't have to.
That's the thing. It's always good when you say, no, that's my list and fuck off.
Yeah.
Now, are you looking forward to the World Cup at all?
No.
Okay. Do you know much about the Rugby League World Cup?
Not really, and I doubt I'll have much time to actually watch it. So that's the reason why I'm not looking forward to it.
That's a good point. The games will be on at a horrible time for a parent. The reason I ask is because I guess that, because people like me and Andrew, we're like diehard rugby league people. And so we're looking for all of the rugby league that's going on around everywhere. And
before kids, I would.
What's that? Before kids?
Yeah, before kids.
Yeah.
I'd watch it from morning to night, but now it's just like, there's 5 minutes. I can watch the first half. You're awake. Awesome. I'm trying to get you back to sleep so I can see the second half, okay?
You're just doing your best. I know Andrew's the same right now. There's some days I'll say to him like, "Oh, did you watch that game?" And he was like, "Dude, I saw the intro and that was it."
Yeah. They wait for the interesting game and they go, you know what? You're not watching it.
You're basically mums with kids. Yeah. Have you got your kid playing footy yet, or are you holding off, or what?
Holding off until next year.
Okay. Now, why'd you make
that? I feel like I keep saying that.
No, look, it's weird because with COVID and everything, it's like, is everything started back up again? I don't know over there, you know?
Yeah, no, it's all started back up. I was just getting him into a few different things like karate, swimming.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't want to overload him too much. And I didn't think he was ready to follow instructions. Yep.
And that's important. I guess that's something that all parents have to make that decision whether it's the right time to, because the game got structure to it. And I think that's one of the good things about soccer, because you basically say, look, go out in the field and try and kick it into that net. You know, and I know that soccer is a lot more than that as a sport, but for little kids who are just starting sport, it's a pretty easy goal, you know. Whereas with footy, you've got to stay behind the people and pass this way, and you can't just run over and tackle whoever. And it does take a little bit to know when your kid is right for that type of thing.
Yeah, and we're also still going through the stage of, I want to win.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you're not always going to win. Yes, but I'm winning. No, you're not. You're not always going to win. And then there's the tears because they're so emotional and just like to win.
Yeah. See, what you need to do, right? You need to put a basketball hoop up out the back, right? And then just start kicking ass at basketball.
I can't play. See,
yeah,
I tried that with Mario Kart.
Oh, did you? And then he started beating you?
No, not started. I'm like, okay, I'm not even trying. Like, you know, I'm actually playing the game properly. I'm like, I'm going to beat his ass.
Mm-hmm.
And he bet me on the first game. I'm like, no, let's try again. Yeah, I haven't bet him yet.
Damn. He's just a natural at Mario Kart.
Yeah, so that won't work.
Oh man. So I always think it's good to have like and you learn it at school, I guess, because he's only just really started school too. So eventually he'll get that, where it's like, man, you don't always win these games, and that's an important lesson that kids get out of sport, is that like you can try hard and you can, you know, do your best and still not be good enough. You know, I know that when I used to play touch football in high school, and I remember we used to be a pretty good team, and then we'd run up against Wayland High School, and they were just better than us. That didn't matter how good we played, they were better than us, and it sucked. But that's part of playing sport. You got to learn how to lose when you're just not good enough.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm the type of parent where I'm like, I'm not worried about, you know, contact and all that. It's like, it's a sport. You know, they can get hurt in everyday life, you know, just playing out in the playground. So, like, you know, that's never been my concern of like going, oh, should I let him play? Yeah, it's just more, is he ready mentally, physically, socially?
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing is too, like sometimes people get it in their heads that like when kids start playing football that they're going to get blasted by Latrell Mitchell coming across field. And it's like, no, they're playing against other kids their same size who are, you know, they basically are just learning to run properly. You know, they're not blasting one another.
Yeah. Like the problem with my kid is like, he loves to do burpees.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, if there's a punishment, they're like, would you like to do burpees? He's like, yeah. It's like, no, you're not getting it. Oh, yeah, you just do star jumps and burpees. Awesome.
Oh, no.
He's got endless energy.
It's crazy when you see how much energy they've got, eh?
Yeah, it's like by now I'm just like, oh, ready to go to sleep? Awesome. Mummy wants to go to sleep too.
You've gone past the, isn't it amazing to, it's just soul destroying for me.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. So when he first starts playing, will you have him wearing a headgear?
Potentially.
Yeah. I think if I had a kid, I would, just to minimise the cuts and the cuts and like the little bruises, you know?
Yeah, like I know it doesn't do anything for concussion or anything, but anything that can help soften a blow or cuts or something. Like, you know, I've broken a collarbone, I've broken a rib, you know. Just anything that can help protect them, like, why not?
Yeah.
But not going overboard at the same time.
No, you don't want him running out like the Michelin Man with like a neck roll and
yeah. I'm not wrapping him up in bubble wrap.
Yeah. I bet there are some kids that run out like that too, hey? It's just got like the big padded shoulders and everything. But that's chilled. I've got no problems with that. It's people do what they want to do with their kids. But yeah. I was actually watching a video the other day about neck rolls in the NFL, and where the players started wearing them I think it was the 60s. There was a player that had a neck issue, and he wore a neck roll around his neck when he'd run out there, and it looked pretty cool. And so other players started adopting it, and it morphed into something different as time went on. And now you don't see too many of them because, it's been proven they don't really help your neck at all, and that, the game changed a little bit, so you didn't need that neck support as much and things like that. And it made me think about some of the different gear rugby league players have had in the past. There was in the 80s and early 90s, you used to see players with big shoulder pads and stuff like that. It was kind of strange.
Yeah, see, I've never watched it when they were wearing shoulder pads. So when I see the old footage, I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah, it is really weird. I don't know if they were outlawed. I know that there was a point where I think there might have been a point, and I feel like it was Mal Meninga, because Mal Meninga went through a stage where he was breaking his arm every so often. I think he broke his arm on a goalpost once, and then he broke it again and again and again. And so he had his arm strapped up, but I think it had a guard in it, and they ended up outlawing that sort of thing because it was you can imagine that Mal Meninga's arm is like a tree trunk anyway.
Yeah.
And then he's got all this padding on it, and underneath it's a hard guard. It's just, he wasn't doing it.
I wouldn't want to encounter that.
Yeah, he wasn't doing anything illegal with it on purpose or anything. It was just the fact it existed would be a problem. So yeah, it's an interesting one, rugby league gear.
And you don't want to be too protected either, because then basically it'd be weakened and get soft.
Well, you can also get to a point where you've got so much confidence because you're not getting the little cuts and bruises and stuff that you throw yourself into the line.
Yeah.
And you start basically lining yourself up to get proper concussions, which no gear can stop. You know, there is some sort of self-preservation in playing rugby league when you run the ball. And, and it's just things like, where am I going to get my head and body and, try and avoid the contact really. Whereas if you're all padded up, you just run it at the brick wall, and all of a sudden you're waking up with smelling salts.
Yeah. Because I've had broken bones, I haven't, I can now, understand, how do they play? When I broke my collarbone, I'm like, oh, I can't move for 6 months. And they're 4 weeks later. I broke, and then, I broke a rib last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I can barely breathe. How do they play?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think about that when, the broken bone, when they break a leg bone, it gets me, because I broke my leg when I was a kid, and I can't remember how long it took me to just be able to walk properly again, and then to have confidence in it. And I think that one of the things that helped me was I was a kid, and you sort of forget about it a little bit, but just to have the confidence to jump up for a high ball, or that when someone tackles you around the legs, they're not going to break your leg again. And then they do, as you say, they do it. They come back after a couple of months and they're back, and it's like, oh man, I'd still have my leg up.
Yeah. Last year I broke my rib when I was 7 months pregnant, and I'm I can barely breathe.
Wow.
Yeah.
How'd you do that? Was it just a case of all of the new person that was there and you just rolled over funny or something?
No, so I was sitting down, he was in the wrong position, and I sneezed.
Oh, and it popped your rib. Oh my goodness. Oh.
Yeah, and then I'm like, how long does a rib take to heal before, I've got to get this person out?
Oh.
Yeah.
And I guess the whole time he's pushing against it from being in the normal position too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, not fun.
Oh, did you know it was broken? Were you like, did you sneeze and go, oh, I broke a rib? Or were you like,
Yeah.
oh, that really hurts?
No, I sneezed and went, I can't breathe, I can't move. This is broken.
Wow.
And had to call the ambulance.
Oh, wow. Did you have that thing where, like, I've said this before, when I broke my leg, I was like, your body sort of just knows.
Yeah.
Was it like that?
Yeah. I just knew. It's like, yeah. Don't recommend that.
Oh, that sounds horrible. Damn.
Thankfully, it was all fixed by the time I needed to get a person out.
That's good, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to have to get the person out while you've got the broken rib. That would not be nice.
Especially when I didn't get my epidural.
Oh, didn't you? Were you too late?
Yeah, 3-hour labour. Done.
Oh, no.
Yeah, not fun.
No.
And isn't that fantastic for an NRL podcast?
Yeah. We're just all of a sudden we're talking about giving birth. What the hell?
Yeah.
This is some weird conversation.
Yeah, let's move that right along.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I apologise.
Oh, man. So, of the footy you've seen this season, how have you felt? Has it been good? Have you enjoyed it?
The ones that I've been allowed to watch, yeah, they've been really interesting. Well, there's been a couple of games from like, seriously, this is one you've got to sleep for.
Yeah, the crap ones, yeah.
Yeah. But no, on a whole, it's been really, really interesting. Like, I'm glad I'm a rugby league fan and I get to watch it.
Now, you've told me this. I don't know if people on the podcast know this. You were originally a Melbourne Storm fan and you switched to the Eels.
Yes,
okay.
I was a Melbourne Storm fan because I lived in Melbourne. And before I knew anything, so I went, okay, pick a team, Melbourne, there we go.
Okay. And then you switched to the Eels for reasons we won't get into. And
yes, for he who shall never be named again.
Yes. It's got to be weird to be like, oh, I used to go for that team, but now I'm cheering against that team.
Yes. And thinking, if I stayed with that team, I would have seen my team win multiple premierships.
When did you make the switch, by the way?
Pretty early on, like within like 3 years of properly watching it.
And what year was it that you become an Eels fan?
I don't know, maybe say about 2012.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, so I'd say it'd be about 10 years.
Now, did you used to go to Storm games?
I've only ever been to 3 games.
Okay, what ones?
I went to a Anzac game.
Yep.
In Melbourne.
So that would have been Storm Warriors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first game. And the other games that I went to, surprisingly, when I lived in Melbourne, I travelled to Adelaide to watch Melbourne and Roosters play.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I watched all their games.
Now,
in Adelaide.
So, what's it like living in Adelaide?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. What's the best part? What's the best part of Adelaide?
About living here?
Yeah.
There's no traffic.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one big country town. Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
It's just so laid back and relaxed. It's like perfect for raising a family.
Yeah. And are you very close to a beach there, or like do you have? Because like living out in the western suburbs of Sydney, the beach life is something that is just like really foreign to me.
It only takes 20 minutes to get anywhere. I can take 20 minutes to get to the country.
Yeah.
20 minutes, rural areas, 20 minutes to get to the city, 20 minutes to the beach.
When you go to the beaches there, do you have to be worried about sharks?
I'm always worried about sharks.
Yeah.
It's why I'd never go to Perth, because I'm just convinced that, I'd go into the water and there'd be a shark there.
Just sharks everywhere. Just great white sharks. See,
yeah.
I would think there would be more great white sharks in South Australia.
There probably is, but that's just my perception.
Yeah. And yet,
Australia. Sorry.
Nah. West Australia can get stuffed. I still think we should invade. But yeah, and there's probably been more shark attacks at Bondi Beach than anywhere in Australia when I think about it.
Yeah. Now that I'm older, I'm more apprehensive now getting in the water.
Yeah, I remember, like, I used to go to the beach a fair bit a few years ago, and like it's just like you're just rolling the dice, really. Like you're entering the food chain. That's what it is. You've just made the decision that I'm going to be part of the food chain while I splash around and have fun. And it's kind of a weird decision to make.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, is that a baby? Nope. I'm hearing things. It's all good.
Okay. It's like when you think you hear your mobile phone go off.
Yeah, basically.
Well, we should wrap this up. It's been so cool to have you on the podcast straight after a footy game. We should try and get you back on again after one of the finals games. I won't get you on after next week's finals game because that could be cruel to one of us, and we don't want to be cruel to one of us.
Well, it depends on which way I tip because again, like this week, well, today I should say, I tipped against Parramatta, so I'm in this weird, spot where I'm like, I didn't do well in my tipping, my team won.
I just think Parramatta's the unstoppable juggernaut, and anything less than a premiership's failure for them. That's how I think.
Awesome. That's great. I'm not backing them for anything until that final whistle goes, and then I know that it's the right decision. I am not jinxing them. I am not going to be the jinx.
Damn it!
I've already got my curse. So.
Just tip them. Just tip them next week. They're gonna win.
I really don't know who I'm going to tip.
Thanks very much for coming on. Where can people find you on Twitter?
At Eels Dance Mum.
Excellent. Thank you once again for coming on. You're always welcome back on the podcast. And it's always good to talk to you.
Thank you. Hopefully people weren't too bored by this episode.
No, they won't have been. I think the highlight was the childbirth.
I'm so sorry about that.
I
was talking about a broken rib.
Don't be sorry about it. Our fans are all a bit strange anyway. They were probably waiting for me to start asking all detailed questions. I'll wait until after the podcast for that. Thank you for everyone for listening. Thank you, Julie, for joining us, and we'll catch you again soon.
Bye.
Palmerbet with the big don't argue. Punters will love that. Download our app today and enjoy tackle-busting benefits with great odds, more markets and same-game multi every NRL match at Palmerbet. Gamble responsibly. For Gamblers' Help, call 1-800-858-858.